Hello, my friend, and welcome to Something for Everybody. My name is Aaron Machbitz, and this is a solo episode of the podcast where I'm discussing 6 uncomfortable lessons that we all need to learn. So let's jump right in. Number 1, regret will haunt you more than failure. First, let's break this down by thinking about the word failure. I have decided to no longer use this word. Now, it makes sense for this lesson to explain this overall concept that I'm about to give you. I have defined failure as the refusal to move forward. And so in most situations, when we decide to get up and keep moving forward, we haven't failed and it wasn't a failure. Now, there are certain situations in which you have to quit something because it's no longer healthy, it's no longer serving you. That's in a different bucket. They're also in certain situations where things just get really hard and things are lonely and things are difficult, whether you're in business, sport, podcasting, and you just have to grit it out through those really tough moments. You just got to crawl, walk, whatever you can do, you got to grit it out. So there are some moments we want to quit and we want to grit, and those are in a separate bucket. But just overall life experiences, if you refuse to move forward, then yes, potentially it was a failure because you didn't learn anything, you didn't grow from it, you didn't keep getting back up and move forward and iterate and review and then continue to execute or improve or assess or whatever the case may be. But it can't be. It just cannot be a failure if you decided to move forward, if you learned something from it, if you grew from it, if you got stronger because of that obstacle, that challenge, or that setback. And so if we frame failure like that, going into sort of any situation, especially when we're a beginner at something or we're not very good at something yet, or we're just starting out at something, or we're a young person heading into the workforce or a young athlete, whatever it is, if we frame failure like that, we never define ourselves as a failure or failing. We just say that's a mistake. I'm going to reload and keep getting back after it. And so if we think about this first lesson like that, with that frame of failure in mind, then we go back to the lesson of regret will haunt you more than failure, which basically means not even trying will cause so much more resentment and bitterness than falling short. It absolutely always will. You never know if you can unless you try. So the whole idea of being in the arena is this number 1 lesson. You gotta get in the arena. You gotta get some blood, sweat, and tears. You gotta get knocked down and get back up and knocked down and get back up. Because that idea of trying and giving your best effort is always gonna be more fulfilling than just thinking, oh well, what if? And so you have to get into the arena. You have to make that decision. The hardest part of anything is getting to the starting line and making that first step. And so that is always going to be the hardest thing to do, but also the most important thing to do. And so regret will haunt you more than failure or falling short or not achieving, the pinnacle of whatever you're trying to achieve. But knowing that when you take your very last breath on this earth, that you gave everything you had. You fucking tried. You said, yes, I absolutely went all in, capitalized all in, and I really went for it. That's enough. And you never know what can happen. Something great. I guarantee something great will happen because the majority of people will not even get to that starting line and will not even make that first step because they're worried about looking like an idiot or taking the beginner steps or looking like a fool. All of these things are just an inevitable part of trying to be great at something, whatever that is. And so get to that starting line, take that first step, and see where it can take you because full effort equals full victory. Always, all the time. And remember that frame of failure. So that's lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, you are always responsible for your emotional reactions. We learned this from Viktor Frankl in his famous book, Man's Search for Meaning, right? The space between the stimulus and the response. Even in the most dire, horrible, horrific situations like a concentration camp in the Holocaust where they murdered 6 million Jews, he understood that he had control over his response and his emotional reactions in the most horrific experiences known to man. And so we now know that in this modern world, we are responsible for our emotional reactions. We have that pause in between the stimulus and the response. There's another good way to look at it. Event plus response equals outcome. There's always going to be events that may be in or out of our control, doesn't really matter. But our response continually is in our control, and that will influence the next outcome, whatever that may be, in whatever domain you can fit this frame in. But you are in control of you. And there's a thing that we say in sports that I got from Brian Cain, is that you must be in control of yourself before you can control your performance. And the way you start to think about that is how you utilize your breath. How you utilize your breath allows you to get anchored into the present moment, allows you to be where your feet are, allows you to use your breath as a life force and a best friend to allow you to take that second, that pause, to control your emotional reactions. And we practice that through breathing techniques, through meditation, through mindfulness. There's so many tools and techniques that I've gone over on this podcast that you can implement in a quiet, still setting that can be applied into a real life, chaotic, fast moving situation. Because you have to take extreme ownership, as Jocko would say, over your life. You have to take accountability for who you are, where you want to be, and you specifically have to take responsibility for your emotions and your emotional reactions, broadly speaking, how you respond to things. You can go the Jocko route and always say good. If there's breath in your lungs, that means there's a chance. That means you're still alive. Good. Texas A&M Aggies baseball use this during your season. I teach my kids this stuff by flipping the switch: body language, breath, self-talk, always dialing in on the things that we have full control over. And it is always going to be your responsibility to control your emotional reactions, or your response, as Viktor Frankl would say, the space in between that stimulus and response, or event plus response equals outcome. You want to influence the next outcome in the best possible way? Get dialed in on your response and get really tuned in on the things you have control over. Number 3, let me take a drink first. Number 3, don't feed your problems with thoughts, starve them with actions. Feelings follow behavior. Action or motivation follows action. Don't feed your problems with more thoughts and get into thought loops and spiral down and then catastrophize. And then, oh my God, all this. So one thought that secreted this one thing and now has secreted 75 different thoughts. And now you're in a totally different headspace than you were when you started. Starve them with action. Again, the most important piece of this lesson is that feelings follow behavior. There's a thing about confidence that I talk about. You may not always feel confident, but you can always behave confidently. This applies to this lesson. If you want to start feeling more confident, you have to behave like a confident person. Chest up, shoulders back, walking tall, taking deep breaths, owning your posture. Okay, you want to feel more motivated? Get into action. Do 5 push-ups. I guarantee you'll do 5 more. Then the ball starts to roll, the momentum starts to happen, and you start to spiral up. So you can't outthink your problems. You can't outthink your problems. The only way to solve anything is through action. That's why I have this 3-stepped approach: awareness, acceptance, action. You're aware of the problem or the thought or the thing that needs doing. You accept that this is actual reality, that this is truth, that this is what it is. This is what it is. And then action, most important steps. What are 1, 2, 3, 4 things that I can do in the next few weeks to try and solve this issue, to get ahead of it, to feel a different way, to get more motivated? Like, motivation follows action, and feelings follow behavior. Those two are the frames that fit inside this lesson number 3. Moving on. Lesson number 4. Your life will be defined by your ability to handle uncertainty. Life is uncertain. You do not know what's going to happen even in the next moment. And if COVID taught us anything, it's that uncertainty is guaranteed. There are no guarantees in life except maybe death and uncertainty. And so we have to understand that our life, our trajectory of our life, the greatness of our life, the fulfillment, the joy of our life will be defined by how we can handle the unexpected, by how we can handle the uncertainty, by how we can handle the setbacks, the challenges, the obstacles. About 95% of life, we can have post-traumatic growth. We absolutely can. There's like a 5% bucket of life that we just got to get through that just absolutely sucks. And we can admit that it sucks and it's really hard and it's terrible. And we don't need to, rack our brains with trying to learn all these lessons from that 5%. It just sucks and we got to get through it and we have to have support through it. But the other 95% of uncertainty, of challenges, of setbacks, of uncontrollable experiences, of hard stuff that gets entered into our life, our life is going to be defined by how we handle those moments. That's why I think sports is such a beautiful way to teach young people how to handle these things, because you absolutely do not know what is going to happen on the field of play. It could be the coaches, could be the umpires, could be the referees, could be the weather, could be the other team that's going to throw you through loops and setbacks and challenges and obstacles. You're going to lose games, you're going to win games, you're going to get put on the bench, you're going to get cut from the team, you're going to lose playing time, you're going to get all of these things are going to happen that are somewhat out of your control. Now, there are a few things that you can do, whether you're an athlete or in the business world, to sort of almost guarantee the fact that you're always going to be the one person playing by your effort, your work, how talented you are, what you bring, how good of a teammate you are, your relationship skills, how you communicate, all of those things that are in your control. But there's still so much uncertainty that goes with it that you are defined as an athlete, a person, a player, a parent, a business person by how you handle that uncertainty. That's why I love the mantra of obstacles make me stronger, knowing that things are going to happen in life. Inevitably, horrible, hard, uncontrollable shit is going to happen. And it's my job and my responsibility to handle that uncertainty with my support system, with the people I love, with communicating about it, with talking about it, but also having a set of tools and skills that I can go to, a set of mental skills or psychological skills or physical skills, or just a whole set of well-being tools that I can go to that help me handle this uncertainty. That's why eating well, moving well, thinking well, and sleeping well have to be cornerstones and foundational pieces of our life, because it gives us a bedrock. It gives us a bedrock to better handle that uncertainty, to better handle those challenges and setbacks and heartbreaks and failures and rejections and whatever the case may be. And so having a foundational piece of that is important. That's why I tell athletes to be brilliant at the basics. The basics are never going to go away. The fundamentals are never going to go away. No matter how many times the game, quote unquote, whether that's the life game or the sport game or the business game changes, the basics will always be the most important piece. And if you have to dial in on those fundamentals, whether it's a sports basics or life basics of eating, moving, sleeping, and thinking, having those, being brilliant at those, having a foundation of those will always, in the long run, help you with uncertainty and help you to spiral up through those obstacles and challenges. Number 5, if your goal is to have a healthier mind, start by removing all the junk from your diet. What you consume is important. We know that what we consume through our mouth, eating-wise, is extremely important. What we eat is extremely important for our overall health, our gut health, our mind, our clarity, our body, our longevity. All of these things are impacted by how we eat. But it's also now thinking about what we consume in our mind, our social media diet, our friendship diet, our relationship diet. What are you consuming? Is it making you a healthier, more fulfilled, more joyful, more peaceful person? Or is it junk? Is it causing you to be sluggish or slow or tired or fatigued or just annoyed all the time about what you're consuming, about who you're hanging out with, right? If you want to have a healthier mind, quote unquote, healthier life, then you have to be ultra aware of what you're consuming and be hyper aware of what makes you feel good, what doesn't, what's good for you, what's not good for you, and starting with just questions, asking yourself questions after you hang out with someone, after you do this, after you do that, and having a journal to answer these questions and to write down your thoughts and thinking about, okay, what's making my life better, what's not, what do I need to remove, what do I need to add, what do I need to quit or grit or keep doing more of or doing less of. We have to keep a temperature check on those things, or else we're just never going to know. We're just sort of flying by the seat of our pants trying to figure it out. But we have to be diligent in writing those things down, understanding what can I remove from my diet that's junk, that's making me less healthy, that's making me more angry, that's making me more anxious. And then trying to consume, we don't have full control over it, right? Because there's a lot of things in life that are just thrown at us. But if we can curate what we consume to the best of our ability, then we're going to have a healthier mind, body, and soul, which ultimately means a healthier, more fulfilling life. Last drink. And last one, number 6, your best life won't seek validation, but insecurity will. So if we want to live our best life, it's got to be on your terms. It's got to be on your terms. Your best life won't seek validation, checking in if this is good with this person or if this is good with that person, right? Yes, our life is relationship focused. We're relational beings. And if you want to live the best life or the good life, according to Harvard, it's about having those quality relationships. But we're not seeking approval or validation from people and simply putting on a mask or not doing the things that are most authentic to us because we're looking for that validation. Now, we all have insecurities, myself included, and sometimes we put ourselves in environments to get validated. We ask questions to get validated. I became a professional wrestler because I wanted attention. I didn't get much attention in high school. And then when I got to college, I got a lot of attention because of who I was and the parties I threw and the baseball player that I was. And I wanted more of that. I got addicted to that attention, being the center of attention, people talking about me. So I also love professional wrestling and think it's the coolest freaking thing in the world. So not only was it a dream, but it also fed on my insecurity of needing attention. And so I went out there and performed in front of a bunch of people all over the world because I was seeking validation for people to tell me that I was cool and that people liked me and what I was doing was cool. But that wasn't living my best life. Now, later on in my career, I did wrestling because authentically, I absolutely freaking loved it. And I went out there and performed the best I had in my whole career because I was performing free and loose. And I wasn't doing it for anyone else except for the absolute love of the game. I've talked about this before, but that's why I play a men's league for baseball because I absolutely love playing the game. I'm not going out there for people to tell me that I'm a good hitter or for people. I don't care if I strike out 17 times. Just being out on the field with my buddies at night playing a game, just talking shop and talking about life, and then also playing baseball, like that's the coolest thing for me, building relationships through that, not letting my insecurities ride me through that and forcing people to give me validation based on things that aren't even cool metrics that we want to live our life by. I want to live my life by the great relationships I have, the health I have, the friendships I have, the people in my life that love me and I love them, and creating memories and experiences with that. Speaking of that, I'm getting married in September, so that's fucking awesome. Can't have to say that in every single episode before I have the wedding, and then I'll have an episode where I do a post-wedding recap. So look forward to that. We'll be in the 300s by then. I mean, this is episode 274. We're freaking rolling 2 episodes a week, absolutely crushing it. So thank you for those that tune in every single week, twice a week, Tuesday and Friday. New listeners, love you too, everyone. Part of the journey. Thank you. Share this with a friend if you find it helpful. Anyways, sorry for that little end of podcast plug, but it is my own show, so I can sort of do whatever I want. But your best life won't seek validation, but insecurity will. And again, according to Harvard, if we want to live our absolute best life, we have to focus on the quality of our health and the quality of our relationships. And inside these lessons were basically those two pieces. And so we have to really think about these uncomfortable lessons that we all need to learn, because life is throwing us these experiences over and over and over again until we adequately learn the lessons we need, grow from them, and become the better version of ourselves through that. Because it's a never-ending journey. It's an ever-evolving process. It's an endlessly evolving process of trying to become that best version of you in greatest service to the world, and understanding some of these uncomfortable lessons now before having to experience it over and over and over again, using this as a tool to skyrocket your growth, understanding where these lessons might apply in your life, where you might have already seen them before, and then getting the context and the mental frames behind them to use it as fuel for your growth. Use it as fuel to become the best version of you. And so those are 6 uncomfortable lessons that we all need to learn, that we're still trying to learn, that are very important for the overall fabric of our life. And again, for us trying to become the best version of ourselves in greatest service of the world, trying to make our prior best our new baseline as we just evolve and spiral up to become our best selves. So again, I know I just said this, but thank you for tuning in. I really love you and appreciate you, every single one of you who tune in, whether you're watching or listening. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers. Thank you very much for tuning into that episode. And if you enjoyed it, click right here for another full-length episode of the podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe. But most importantly, above all else, please take good care of yourselves and others. And I'll see you next time. Lots of love. Cheers.